hope you guys are ready for today's show, because welcome into Chicago Bears Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, as always, Harrison Graham. Pro Football Focus released their latest mock draft, and they got the Bears taking a quarterback in round one. Bryce Young, the selection at number 4. So on today's show, we're going to kind of break down, react to this, and then give some pros and cons, kind of compare Fields and Young as prospects as they came out of college, and then we'll determine, should the Bears draft a quarterback in the first round, or should they build around Justin Fields, or is it too early to make that decision? We'll break it all down on today's show. Stick with us until the end. You're not going to want to miss any of it. Here we go. I mean, right? A big outlet releases a mock draft, and they got the Bears going quarterback. Get ready for it. You're going to see more of this. More mock drafts are going to have Chicago going quarterback, especially if Justin Fields continues to struggle. Again, I thought we saw some good signs this Sunday, but let's see how things progress moving forward. So here were the top 5 picks in this mock draft. C.J. Stroud, Ohio State quarterback, went to the Texans at number 1. Will Anderson Jr., the Alabama linebacker edge, who, quite frankly, I'd be tempted to take him if he was there if I was the Bears. He's the only defensive guy I would go over offense. He went number 2. Jalen Carter, the defensive lineman out of Georgia, went number 3 to the Jets. Bryce Young went number 4 to the Bears. We'll obviously talk about that one quite a bit. And then Will Levis, mayonnaise boy, went to the Commanders at number 5. Thank God this mock didn't have the Bears taking Will Levis. And by the way, PFF's draft order based on Super Bowl odds, not current reverse order record, because the Bears at 2-2 obviously would not be picking at number 4. They'd be fringe top 10. I'd have to go double check, but this was based on the current Super Bowl odds. I'll go ahead and show 6 through 10, and then we'll kind of get into this more. Brian Bresee, the defensive lineman out of Clemson, went number 6 to Pittsburgh. Fellow Clemson defensive lineman Myles Murphy went to the Panthers at number 7. Peter Skoronski, maybe the top lineman in this draft out of Northwestern, went to the Falcons at 8. Maybe the Bears could bring a local kid home. Who knows? Tanner McKee, who I'm not a big fan of, Stanford quarterback, went number 9 to the Lions. And then Oregon defensive back Christian Gonzalez goes to New England at number 10. Again, draft order based on current Super Bowl odds. All right, before we start breaking down PFF selecting Bryce Young for the Bears at number 4, I want to ask you guys first, should the Bears draft a quarterback in the first round? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. So let's talk about the Alabama quarterback. And I should just get this out of the way right now. I am a big fan of Bryce Young. I think he's a good player. I like him better than C.J. Stroud right now as a draft prospect. You look at his numbers so far this year, picking up where he left off last year. Over 67% completion, over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's also rushed for 3 scores. Got a little banged up in Bama's last game against Arkansas, but not a major injury. I think it's a little shoulder sprain. We'll see if he misses any time. But the Young versus Stroud debate will continue, and I'm a big fan of Bryce Young. If it were me, if I'm drafting a quarterback, and for most teams, he would be the guy I would take over C.J. Stroud. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind by the end of this year, but I like what Young brings to the table just a little bit more than what Stroud does at this point in time. Now, coming up here in a few moments, should the Bears build around Justin Fields, or should they draft Bryce Young if he is available when they pick in round 1? Ryan Poles, he's going to have some tough decisions to make this upcoming offseason. We'll discuss that here in just a moment. But first, subscribe to the channel because we are trying to get to 54,000 subscribers for Brian Urlacher, a Bears legend for this football team. I'm tired of Nicholas Morrow, number 53, being the number we're on right now. Let's get to 54. Do it for Urlacher. And in all seriousness, whether you like Urlacher or not, he's kind of a controversial figure these days, but he was a great Bear. Hit that sub button. The latest Bears news and rumors here on this channel. We're going to have you covered here on a daily basis. All right, let's compare Justin Fields to Bryce Young when they were in college. Justin Fields made 22 starts. Bryce Young has currently made 20. Obviously, he's going to make some more here for Alabama. Completion percentage, pretty similar. Fields, slight edge there. Yards, Bryce Young has had more volume. Not super surprising. Bama last year didn't have a great defense, so they were playing from behind quite a bit. Touchdowns and interceptions, very similar, right? 67-9 for Fields, incredible. 62-10 for Young, also incredible. An area where Fields kind of separates a little bit. He's a much better runner than Bryce Young. Bryce Young is mobile, and he started to run more this year. All of his rushing yards are this year, actually. He had 0 last year, despite running it 80 times. College stats factor in sacks, and he took a decent amount. out. Rushing TDs, 19 for Fields, and then 6 for Young. Especially throwing-wise, numbers are eerily similar. They've put up very similar numbers. They've played with high-level players and against high-level competition. They have done very similar things at the collegiate level. Now, Bryce Young won a Heisman last year. Fields did not, but Fields they have both gotten to national championship games. Have done a lot of similar things. Now, they're not necessarily similar prospects. They do some different things. Some things they do similar, but I think there are some differences, which we will break those things down as well. BetUS, today's sponsor here on Chicago Bears Now. And if you want to go bet on or against the Bears all season long, BetUS is the place to do it. Chatsports.com/Bears. Promo code is BearDown. That'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. But it all starts by using our link when you create an account. Got to go to chatsports.com/Bears and then plug in the promo code BearDown to get the deposit bonus. All right, so let's kind of break down Fields versus Young, kind of 5 different categories that we'll reveal here. And number 1 is arm strength. And that favors Justin Fields. Justin Fields has a stronger arm than Bryce Young. Now, Bryce Young has a strong arm. Don't get me wrong. He has a good arm. Justin Fields has a cannon, though. Like, Justin Fields has a top 10-ish NFL arm. Bryce Young will probably be more middle of the pack once he comes into the league. But Joe Burrow doesn't have a cannon, and he is plenty successful. It just requires a tick more accuracy. Again, not a weak arm. It's well above average arm for Bryce Young. But Justin Fields has a cannon, and people don't realize that. Fields gets the edge when it comes to pure arm strength. Now, obviously, arm strength isn't everything. Accuracy is more important than arm strength. Short to intermediate accuracy. I would give the edge to Bryce Young. I would say it's closer in this category than the arm strength one. I would say the gap in arm strength favors Fields more than the gap in short to intermediate accuracy does for Bryce Young, but I would give it to Bryce Young. Fields misses some easy ones from time to time. Even on some of his completions underneath, his throws tend to sail sometimes, and guys got to make plays vertically. I would like to see Fields put the ball on guys in stride a little bit more often on the intermediate routes, but that's not to say he's necessarily inaccurate, although this year the accuracy overall hasn't been great. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. Throwaways, drops. There's been a lot of balls deflected at the line of scrimmage, which has been weird for Fields. Obviously, we've talked about his struggles so far this year, which does factor into this possibility, which is why PFF is like, maybe Ryan Poles will go out and draft a quarterback. I will give Bryce Young the edge when it comes to short and intermediate accuracy. And again, I'm mostly basing this on the type of prospects they were coming out of college. Fields just doesn't have enough NFL run at this point when I'm talking about player-player comparison. Deep ball accuracy. I will favor Justin Fields. Now, a couple things come into play here. Arm strength, very good for Justin Fields. It favors him there as well. And I think this was the best part about his game coming out of Ohio State, and quite frankly, the best part of what he's done in the NFL is the ability, the willingness, number one, to throw the ball downfield, although there's been a couple times this year where it's like pull the trigger, but that's been more on some underneath intermediate stuff. He loves throwing the deep ball. He did it with great success and accuracy at Ohio State. And even last year, we talked about this in the offseason, he was like 16th or 17th in NFL deep ball accuracy as a rookie. And that was with a bad offense a year ago. Under Matt Nagy. Obviously, the offense hasn't been good this year either, and we've seen less of those deep shots this year. But deep ball accuracy is a strength of Justin Fields. It's not that it's something Bryce Young can't do, but it does favor Justin Fields as a player overall. All right, mobility. We kind of talked about it earlier. This also favors Justin Fields. Now, mobility is kind of a wide-ranging category, right? That's why I broke accuracy into 2 parts, short, intermediate, and then deep ball accuracy. Fields is a pure athlete and runner, is a far better runner in that area. He just has always been a good scrambler. If there's design runs, he just has better straight line speed. In the NFL, he's run for almost 600 yards in just, 14 starts. So he's been a quality rusher in this league. He was a great runner in college, even though he's been a pass-first quarterback as well. Now, if you're talking about pocket mobility, kind of navigating through the pocket, stepping up, footwork, that type of stuff, both are kind of inconsistent in that regard. We've talked about Fields, mechanics at times haven't been great with his footwork. Bryce Young's kind of the same way. He doesn't have the best footwork either, so that part of it's kind of a push. So if you're talking about just pure pocket navigation, both are good at times, both need work at times. So that would be similar. So if I broke those into two, I would say Fields' overall mobility as a runner, definitely Fields. And then pocket mobility, I'd say more is even. So let's get to the last category I'm breaking down. Clutch/it factor. You hear that all the time. Coaches, GMs, yeah, he's got the it factor. Players gravitate toward him. He's a leader. People believe in him. I think both have it. Listen, you play for national championships. You win a bunch of games at the college level. Clearly your teammates believe in you, and clearly you're making a lot of plays to give your team a chance to win the game. They both have won big games in college. Obviously, Fields isn't there anymore, but we saw Justin Fields on a neutral field just dominate and flat-out decleat Trevor Lawrence and Clemson his last season at Ohio State. Bryce Young went to a national championship last year, won a must-win game in the SEC title game to make the college football playoff. He's winning big games this year too. What we need to see out of Justin Fields is, we need to see him in some clutch moments. We haven't seen that yet this year. Think about the 4 games so far. Week 1, it's a monsoon in San Francisco. I thought he handled things well, but there wasn't like 2 minutes left, tie ball game, or down 4, go make a drive. That has not happened in any game this year. Week 2, Green Bay, that situation didn't arise. Game was out of reach. Week 3 against the Texans, it's tied, but Roquan picked the ball off, and they just took a knee and kicked the game-winning field goal. That was not a clutch situation. And then this last week against the Giants, we could have seen it on that 4th and 2, but Matt Eberflus decided to punt the ball, and then Velus Jones, when they got the stop, dropped the ball, so we didn't get to see a clutch situation down 8 points with a couple minutes to go. We need to see him in those situations to see how he can handle it. Last year in Pittsburgh, handled it really well. They lost, but huge fourth quarter, go-ahead touchdown with a couple minutes left. Defense just couldn't stop him. Had a couple of other moments as well. But we need to see him in clutch situations more to see if he can be that guy in the NFL. He was that in college. Can the clutch gene translate to the NFL? We haven't seen enough opportunities for Fields in those situations. Now, do you believe Justin Fields will be the guy for this team? Type B for believe, type D for don't. Let me know in the comments section. We got a little bit more to break down when it comes to Fields versus Young. So things to consider when you think about this mock draft and taking Bryce Young in the first round. Number one, and quite frankly, this is probably the most important one, I would say, this Bears roster has issues beyond quarterback. If you draft Bryce Young, you don't have said first-round pick to help him or whoever the quarterback is, right? Like if you're building around Justin Fields, you can use that first-round pick to either A, trade down and get an extra first-round pick, or B, draft an elite player in the top 5, top 10, wherever they're going to be picking to help Justin Fields. If you draft Bryce Young, if you don't think Fields is the guy, that's fine, but that's one less elite asset you have to build around him. Does that make sense? Like if you draft Bryce Young, you don't have your first-round pick to help Bryce Young. Comprende? I think that kind of speaks for itself. So that's something to consider if you are Ryan Poles, because you got issues on the offensive line, wide receiver, even defensive line, linebacker. Like there's other areas that you need to fill out this football team. Now, quarterback's the most important, but there's a strong argument to be made that, hey, keep Fields, get an elite piece around him, and then the next year you can draft a quarterback if it doesn't work out. So that's number one. Number two, if you take Bryce Young or any other quarterback in the draft, you're starting over with a quarterback learning Getsy's offense for the first time, right? Which, again, is fine if you don't think Fields can be the guy. But if Fields shows improvement throughout the season, let's see if he does, he'll be more advanced in the offense, right? You would like to think between now and week 18, if he takes enough growth, that means he's more comfortable in the offense. Him and Getsy are more on the same page. The checks before plays, at the line of scrimmage and stuff like that. The language of the offense, he would understand all that, go into the offseason with all that knowledge, build on it with the mental and physical reps, and then year two, take another step in the offense. Well, if you draft a quarterback, you're starting from scratch again, which, again, if you want to go that route, that's fine, but that's something else to consider. Bryce Young will have to learn all of that, just like Justin Fields had to this past offseason, and what he's still working through right now. So that's another thing to consider. Number three, Ryan Poles did not draft Justin Fields. This is very important. This is very important, guys. There doesn't have to be an allegiance from Ryan Poles to Justin Fields. Fields was a pace guy. Now, I think Poles likes Fields. I think Eberflus likes Fields. I think Getsy likes Fields. But they inherited Justin Fields. That's important. That's why we have got to sit here and at least recognize that it's possible that this regime bails on Fields after a year. They could. They didn't pick this is not their guy. You hear that all the time. Hey, he wasn't my guy. I inherited that guy. I'm going to go get my guy. So if they decide at the end of this year that Fields isn't their guy, they don't have loyalty to him. They didn't draft him. They don't feel responsible to give him more opportunity. So keep that in mind. That is something to consider. Again, there's a lot of other factors. This roster's not quite ready. Got to learn new offense with a rookie quarterback pains in general. But Ryan Poles inherited Justin Fields, and that's a very important thing to recognize. All right, so all of that being said, at this point right now, through 4 weeks of the season, which isn't that much, I want to remind you guys, 4 weeks in a new system, what would you do if you had to make the call right now? Would you build around Justin Fields, not draft a quarterback in the first round, take a receiver, lineman, trade down for more picks, etc., free agency as well, or would you draft Bryce Young? Type JF for build around Justin Fields, or type BY to build around Bryce Young. You make the call. Let me know in the comments. My verdict is ask me after week 18. I think right now, if I had to make a choice right now, even though it's been super ugly, I would rather use that first-round pick to build around Justin Fields. Because guess what? If you spend some money on this roster this offseason and in the draft and free agency, and Fields still isn't the guy, you can draft a quarterback the next year. It's okay. You don't pay Fields. You're not committing big money to him if that's the case. But if you draft Bryce Young, you still have roster issues. It's one less premium pick to work with. So right now, that's what I would say. But if it's a disaster this year, I could change my mind. So ask me after the season. We'll see how I feel here in a couple months. All right, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I had fun doing it, breaking this down. Bryce Young's a great prospect. I'm a big fan of his, just like I was a big fan of Justin Fields and still am. I hope it works out for him because, again, I just pointed out reasons why. If Justin Fields works out, it's better because it just makes the timeline go quicker for when this team can be relevant, in my opinion. But time will tell on that front. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you soon here on Bears Now.